ever wanted a tiny mic? I do. You ever feel like you look like I won't say what we said in the 90s, a little chump for the way that you love people? Like, it's easy to love people when you just know they're going through a hard time. It's easy to love people when they're mean, but you know that they've never had an opportunity to know God. It's easy to love people when they're hateful, but they're in loss, and you're like, man, that must really suck. It's easy to love people when you're a shepherd. It is. It's easy to love people when you love God in general. There's times that I get into these back and forths with God, and I'm not yelling at him. I just want to know. Like, and what would you have me do? Because right now, it's looking real little. It's looking real. It's looking like some 90s words that you wouldn't want me to repeat right now. It's looking real crazy. I have loved friends, colleagues, family, people that didn't deserve a lick of nothing. I do mean a lick of nothing. I remember a time when my own father got in a wreck, and I went running to the hospital to take care of the man that molested, abused, and tried to murder me and held me prisoner in my own house with screwed-in windows and doors. I looked like a chump. I did. For a couple weeks, I looked like a chump, taking care of him, feeding him. Looked like a chump. But you know, at the end of every day when I'm looking at God and he's looking at me and I looked at him and he looked at me. Sorry. And it reminds me of this song, and I was sitting here in the quiet and I just start hearing this song. You might recognize it, and it says, "This is my worship and this is my offering. In every moment I withhold nothing. I'm learning to trust you, even when I can't see it. And even suffering, I gotta believe it. And if you say it's wrong, then I'll say no. And if you say release, I'm letting go. If you're in it with me, I'll begin. And when you say to jump, I'm diving in. If you say be still, then I will wait. If you say to trust, I will obey. I don't want to follow my own ways. I'm done chasing feelings. Spirit lead. Feels nasty, don't it? Yeah. You know, I think we feel like being like God would feel so, I'm king of the world, and oftentimes being like God feels like you're on the gum on the bottom of every shoe that walks over you. But a lot of times God will call us to do something that starts to feel gross. You know what it does is, yes, it's hard and it takes you through something and you have to continue in obedience. Or, hey, God understands when you have to let go a lot of times if you talk to him about it. You got to let go of whatever it is that in that moment you're like, it ain't me. I'm not the one. And God's merciful and he's forgiving, you know. But a lot of times, situations like this, over all these years of my life, which makes me sound old, to young people I am, one day you'll realize that feeling like God might feel is oftentimes just understanding the rejection, the hurt, the abandonment that God feels on a daily basis. And this is just 1, 2, 3 people in your life. Now you imagine that about all the people who've turned their back on God and how it must feel to be God every day. He's sovereign. He's authoritative. He can do anything he pleases. But God has feelings. It's why you have them. It's why you have emotions, because God has them. The Bible says we are made in his image. Why do you think you got a funny personality? Why do you think you like to play with your kids or dance in the rain? Because God has a personality and God has a heart and feelings. You think God doesn't care when people don't love him? You think God doesn't care when people turn away? You think God doesn't care when he tries to talk to people and they're just like, shut up? Or they don't even notice? Or maybe they think God doesn't like them at all and they run into a patch of their favorite wildflowers and they're like, this was another crappy day. And God's like, yeah, I really tried. Like, I did the thing and the thing and the thing and the other thing. God is not desperate. He's never desperate. But anytime God will ask me to do an altar call, whether it be on the pulpit or with people right here, I always see God in a vision the same way. He always goes and he sits in the corner of the room. He puts his knees up and he holds on to them. And he says, do they love me? Do they love me? Do they love me? And as our eyes are closed, and that's how I see him. Do they love me? Yeah, bro, do they love me? It's almost like if I open my eyes, or am I going to see him there? Finally. Being a Christian is not easy. Doing what God called you to do was not easy. The Bible says many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him from them all. And you will run into many periods of rest in your life, many periods of attack in your life. Jesus warned of the attack. In fact, Jesus had a lot of his own attacks. But a lot of times, the harder that you go into love and what God called you to do, the more backlash you will get. Because when you are right at the door, the cusp of what God asked you to do, the devil knows that every demon in hell is dispatched to stop you from opening the door. I come to tell you to open the door anyway in God's time. I come to tell you that God's going to lead you. Don't be led by your feelings. Sometimes I just want to call up about 10 people. Yeah, that God's had me love like all of my life, regardless of how crazy they were. And I want to be like, hey, yeah. Remember that time you cussed me out stuff and you were like, ooh, Brooke, da-da-da-da-da, or whatever, and I was being nice to you stuff? Well, I just going to tell you that God wanted me to let you know that I get to never talk to you again. Okay. All right, I'm going to go order DoorDash. Get bent. All right, bye. God never does that. Sometimes he'll release you. But I've never got to call somebody up and be like, get bent. I have. But not because God told me to. Don't be led by your feelings today. Be led by the Spirit. And if we're led of the Spirit, we can't be led of the flesh. It's very tempting to be led of the flesh when you want to call up 10 people. I don't even remember 10 people's phone numbers, to be quite honest. I don't even know my own. I have to ask Emily. Emily, what's my phone number? Don't say it out loud. Be led of the Spirit, not of the flesh, and you won't fulfill the desires of it. Which might be, y'all get bent.